There is no stand-in for Polly Middlehurst, who returns in an hour's time. An absolute tragedy is playing out in the English Channel. The Telegraph report that 4 people died this morning after a small boat thought to be carrying nearly 50 migrants ran into difficulties. 43 migrants were rescued in the operation, involving up to 10 English and French vessels. More than 30 of those rescued were pulled from the water after apparently falling in at the Sandetti Bank halfway between France and Britain. We understand that some of the survivors are still fighting for their lives in hospital. A reminder, if you needed it, that notwithstanding the fact that the law is being broken, these migrant journeys across a perilous and at the moment icy patch of water is a humanitarian crisis. What happens every day with sometimes as many as 1,000 people hitting our shores when the waters are calm is an economic, infrastructural and national security disaster. But above all, allowing this trade to continue at the hands of unscrupulous international criminals is morally unacceptable too. These heartless gangsters take money from desperate people on the promise of a new life. They couldn't care less if they perish in the water. Now, you know how cold it is at the moment. Can you imagine what these poor people went through earlier today? It's an untold horror for which there are no words. Getting a grip on this crisis is fast becoming the #1 priority for this government, if it wasn't already. If we do nothing, we'll see hotels and holiday parks filled up by the day at an estimated current cost of just under £50 million a week. Britain has always given refuge to those who need it. And the tragedy of the current situation is that the proportion of individuals exploiting the system, potentially with the help of loophole lawyers, makes it harder for those who genuinely need refuge to get it. They are shoved to the back of the queue, or at the very least, they must wait longer as the authorities process spurious applications. Like, for example, young Albanian men. Far from being war-torn, Albania is a beautiful, democratic and safe country. It's a NATO member, which hasn't seen conflict for a quarter of a century. It's more peaceful than the bloody Isle of Wight. When it comes to those seeking refuge, including the many thousands fleeing the horrors of Ukraine, we open our doors, absolutely. But to those chucking their mobile phones and documents in the water as they cross in boats, covering their faces and running for the hills on arrival, not so much. The British people are famously welcoming, but will not tolerate a chaotic and uncontrolled situation in which individuals land on our shores and then just disappear into our cities, towns and villages. That's not how you do it. Try doing that in China. Good luck with that. We are a modern democracy in which we have systems. If you come, we need to know who you are, your circumstances, and yes, where you're really from, as Lady Susan Hussey would put it, so your case can be considered. When did that become controversial? It isn't. If you have a claim for asylum which is valid, which thousands do, you would surely provide information enthusiastically, not withhold it, which is the case for many. The government has been asleep at the wheel on this one. Rishi Sunak has clearly taken steps, as announced in the House of Commons yesterday, including a deal to return Albanians as it's a safe country. But it won't stop there. Tackling this human tragedy is Sunak's greatest test, and I would argue potentially his Falklands moment. The politics of this are huge. If nothing changes, he's in trouble. Get this right, and he wins the next election. The decision is his.